welcome to Call Your Coven. I'm Meg Jones Wall, and I am the resident tarot reader of the Coven. In this quick and dirty 101 episode, I'm just going to tell you the absolute basics of tarot in case you are not familiar with this card system or how it works. This is really just to make sure that we're all on the same page with what these cards are, what their deal is, and why they're interesting. So in this little episode, we are going to cover what tarot is, how the deck is structured, where all of this came from, and how we can use it. I'm also going to share a bunch of additional resources that you can check out if you want to learn more about the tarot or if you want to work with me directly. So let's get into it. First of all, what even is tarot? What are we doing here? What is this thing about? Tarot is a playing card deck. It is a deck of cards. It features 78 cards that follow a really specific structure. For minor arcana suits that are really similar to a standard 52 card playing deck, as well as a fifth suit of 22 trumps that we tend to call the major arcana. Now, these cards use imagery and correspondences to explore a lot of different facets of the human experience. Everything from our daily physical activities and struggles to our spiritual journeys, our relationships, our creative endeavors and passions, our fears, our intellect and the way we think and process information, our struggles, our choices, and so much more. Basically, anything that you experience as part of being a human being, an embodied human being in this world, there's probably a tarot card that corresponds to it, or a combination of cards that can address it and highlight it and give us information about it, right? And so using the tarot, using these cards, we can explore anything we want in a number of different ways, depending on how we're using them and what we're doing with them. Now, people have different beliefs about the cards, right? And over the centuries, tarot has been called a bunch of different things, sometimes to scare people away from using them in the case of the church, or to vilify people who read with them in the case of like long racist histories against the Romani people. Now, I personally do not believe that the cards are really inherently anything. I don't believe that they're inherently evil. I don't believe that they're inherently spiritual. And I actually don't believe that they're inherently magical. These are just my beliefs. I do believe that the tarot is a tool that we can use for any number of purposes, some of which are spiritual and divinatory in nature, and some of which are not, and that it's really up to you to decide what is going to work best for you and what you believe about the cards. Spirituality is not a requirement for working with the tarot. I think that the only real hard and fast rules for the tarot are to be curious, to be respectful of the cards and their history, to not appropriate any cultures, and to not use the cards to cause harm or manipulate. Pretty much everything else is fair game. You can do what you want with the cards. You can use them the way that you want. Now let's talk about structure. Every tarot deck is structured a specific way, right? They usually come in a little box. Some of them are tuck boxes, some of them are little platform boxes, and it's a deck of cards. Like, it really is exactly what it sounds like. Some of them are going to be thicker than others. Some of them are going to be larger than others. They're usually a little bit longer than a classic 52 card style, like a poker deck or a deck that you might play blackjack with. Now, the major arcana features 22 cards that we often call trumps or archetypes. And these are generally the cards that are going to get the most press, right? If you don't know anything about tarot at all, these are probably cards that you might have heard of or seen featured like in media or in film, right? These are cards that are going to have names and really specific imagery that you might be familiar with, even if you don't know very much about the tarot. So this is where the Fool lives. This is the Wheel of Fortune, the Devil, Death, the Tower, the High Priestess, the Hanged One. These different cards that feel larger than life and represent universal archetypes that lots of people can relate to in lots of different ways. They have a ton of layers of meaning. They have a lot of different correspondences built into them. They're really complex, and there's a lot that we can do with them. There are a lot of ways to see them, and they're going to mean really different things to really different people, which is cool and interesting. It gives us a lot to really dig into, right? Then the other portion of the cards, right? So we've got 22 major arcanas, and then there's 78 cards. So we've still got 56 cards left to deal with. This is generally considered the minor arcana. This is kind of the other half of the deck. And the minor arcana is broken up into 4 suits. So each suit is going to include 10 numbered pip cards, which are numbered ace through 10, and each suit is going to have those 10 cards. And then also includes 4 different kinds of court cards, which are generally referred to as page, knight, queen, and king. And these are often depicted as figures, but depending on the deck, some decks don't have people at all. So sometimes you might see these depicted as animals or as other energies. In addition to that, each suit is commonly associated with an element. And while you can find some variety and some disagreement into which element is associated with each suit, the most common one is the one that I use. And that's associating the suit of wands with the element of fire, the suit of swords with the element of air, the suit of cups with the element of water, and the suit of Pentacles with the element of earth. Now, each element is also associated with a particular aspect of the human experience. And so we can really see each portion of the deck as telling a different kind of story or really exploring a different facet of what it means to be a human being. So when we pull cards and when we're looking at different cards that are in different portions of the deck, we can really be thinking more narrowly about what it means to exist in a certain kind of way, or see mirrored back to us different parts of our experience as a person living in this world. So when we're looking at the suit of wands and we're thinking about the element in fire generally, we're often thinking about the soul, right? We're thinking about our passions, our motivations, our instincts, anything that we're really enthusiastic or excited about, and the fire that burns in our belly, anything that like really gets us hot and bothered, that gets us active, that gets us moving. This is creativity. This is the erotic. This is anything that we desire or feel driven to pursue, right? It's fire, it's heat, it's action, it's movement. It's something rapid. It's something hot, right? Swords and the element of air are typically associated with the mind. And so with this, we're thinking about intellect and reason, about logic and truth, information, decisions, rationality, anything that our mind is going to control, right? So we're thinking about intelligence. This is really about analysis, trying to see something clearly, using our perceptions, being aware of our viewpoints and our biases, really trying to pick something apart and look at it in a critical way. The suit of cups and the element of water are often associated most with the heart. And so we're thinking about emotions and relationships. We're also thinking about intuition, faith, and beliefs, the things that we really trust in and believe in, and that's not necessarily having any proof to back it up, but the things that just feel correct to us or feel right to us. This is about our connection to ourselves and to other people. And it's also our way of kind of feeling anything and really being in relationship with the world around us. The last suit is Pentacles and Earth. And this is about our physical self, right? This is our bodies, this is our homes, this is our jobs, this is our resources, this is our tactile and sensory experiences. So it's also about pleasure and comfort, responsibility, boundaries, and our daily experiences. This is really about who we are in our everyday life, the ways that we care for our bodies, and also the ways that we show up for our physical communities. Now, I do want to say that some decks, especially more modern decks, might include extra cards, especially in the major arcana, or might rename different portions of the deck or different cards specifically, especially the major arcana and the suits in the minor arcana, as well as the court cards. So depending on the tarot deck that you're using, or the practitioner you're listening to, if you're not reading a deck on your own, you might hear some alternative names for these. Your deck, especially if they rename things, are generally going to include a guidebook or even just a separate card that's going to talk you through those differences so that you know what you're looking at when you pull a specific card. I tend to, and you'll hear this reflected in the podcast as well as across the different resources that I've created, I tend to use the most classic common names for these cards just to try to prevent any confusion from happening. Okay, the history of tarot is really hard to summarize quickly, so I'm not going to try to do it here because we don't have that much time. It's messy, it's complicated, it's convoluted, different resources contradict each other, etc. It's too much to get into here. So what I am going to do is give you some amazing resources to check out if you want to learn more about the history of tarot in the show notes. You can check that out. But what I want to share with you today is just to know that the tarot first emerged in Europe in around the 1400s. And this was after the development of a number of other different decks, including our 52 card playing deck, as well as decks that originated in other parts of the world. It has a history of being used both as a card game played like bridge, as well as a party game where folks would use the cards to tell stories or describe things that had happened to them, or also define characters. If you've ever played that game where you try to figure out who you were in a TV show or in a book and then assign different characters to different stories, people used to do that with tarot cards, and you can still do it with tarot cards if you want to. The cards have evolved themselves over time. They've been standardized in different ways around the world over time, and have also had different belief systems projected onto them, which is where a lot of different gatekeeping myths have come from, and why the history of tarot can be really hard to talk about and unpack. But what I think is really cool is that over the centuries, various people at different times have always decided for themselves what the cards mean, why they're significant, and how they should be used, which means that you are perfectly in line and in tarot history when you decide for yourself what the cards mean, why they're significant to you, and how you want to use them in your own practice. I also just want to say before we move into how to use the cards that the main decks you're going to hear referenced most often, especially if you start researching the tarot, are the Marseille deck, which is the oldest standardized tarot deck, the Rider-Waite-Smith, which is the most popular and recognizable deck that you'll see. If you picture a tarot card, you're probably picturing the Rider-Waite-Smith, as well as the Thoth deck, which is the most complex in imagery of the three and is the one I typically see the least. But thousands of tarot decks have been created over the centuries, and you can use whatever deck you want. All right. You don't have to start with any particular deck. Do whatever you want. Do what makes your heart happy. Tarot cards can be used for readings, and that's how you're most often going to see them portrayed in media, and it's how I'm going to really be talking about them here in Call Your Coven and in the podcast. This is generally considered divination, sometimes called fortune telling. But you can use tarot cards for whatever the hell you want. You can use them for creative inspiration, for meditation. You can use them as conversation starters or for study. You can use them as altar pieces or anchors for your spell work. You can use them to help you make decisions or tell stories. You can even use them to build characters for your TTRPG games or build worlds for your books or literally whatever you like. Tarot is a tool, and you get to decide for yourself how it's going to be the most supportive and useful for you, how it's going to be inspiring, and what you want to do with it. I also think it's worth talking about the fact that tarot can serve as a really valuable companion during challenges as well as during celebrations. Using tarot for readings or in other ways can really help us check in with ourselves. They can help us find support and encouragement, make decisions, reflect on our wants and needs, clarify our thinking, explore different perspectives, and receive advice on how to move forward. There's so many things that you can do with the cards. So don't let the ways that some people might talk about it on social media or the ways that people might tell you you have to use the cards stop you from trying things out. It really ultimately is a tool that you get to play with and build a relationship with as you want. So try different things out, see what works for you, experiment with your practice, and have fun. Truly, the cards can be a really good friend to you if you want. On a more personal note, I have really found tarot to be an extraordinary help for me in moments of struggle. In times when I've felt alone or had trouble finding my way, reaching for the cards has helped me feel like I don't have to solve everything by myself, or like I have permission to slow down and think about something really clearly, check in with myself, and really decide for myself what I want with some support. But the cards are also great to use when things are going well, helps get some additional insights or celebrate, see things in a more positive light, etc. There's so many ways that the cards have shown up for me throughout the years of my reading. Tarot's also helped me find a lot of confidence in myself. It's helped me see the world in different ways. It's helped me learn to take bigger chances and go after what I want. Like, tarot really has changed my life. I found it during my Saturn return and I never looked back. So I'm really excited to talk more about the tarot with you and also to talk about it with the rest of the coven, and to explore together with you and with my friends how tarot can intersect with astrology and numerology and daily life in a super practical way. So, if you want to connect with me, you can find me on social media. My handle across all of the platforms is 3am.tarot. You can also find me online in other places besides social media. I'm trying to divest from socials. It's hard, as you probably know. But I do have a newsletter. I have my own podcast called Card Talk. And I also have a bunch of different tarot resources and classes and membership offers, all kinds of different things. And you can find all of that and subscribe at 3amtarot.com. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope this has helped answer any basic, quick questions you might have about tarot. And if you want to learn more about the cards, if you want to work with me, check out the show notes for some more resources on getting started with the cards, how to pick out your own deck, and everything else you need to know to build a tarot practice. Bye for now.